Good morning, guys, and welcome to our front-end web development course. In this class, we're going to be talking about props in React. We're going to be covering like 5 major subsections. The first one, I want to talk about props in relation to JavaScript functions, in relation to JS functions. So, do they look alike? How do you write props in React? How do you write arguments in JavaScript? We're going to be talking about the anatomy of a prop. What object type is the prop that you receive in React? Then we're going to be talking about destructuring a prop in a React component, how to get key and value pairs from prop in a React component. We're also going to talk about passing props from parent to children components to child components. Hold on, please. To child components. And then we're going to talk about functions as props key value. Yeah, so let's start. What are props in relation to JavaScript functions? So I know you, before now, you already have a grasp of what JavaScript functions are. Let me just quickly create a JavaScript function using ES6 syntax. I can say constant name. That's the name of the function. Constant named, let me call it named function, is equal to create a function, you use these brackets, and then you use an arrow function, you open your curly brace, and you close your curly brace. You know that, right? And then inside your function, this is where you have your function implementation. That means you can implement methods in here. Implementation. So for example, I could say do a console.log, right? I could say console.log, and then is a string. My name is Dami. I just wrote an implementation in this function, right? And then to call this function in my code, all I need to do is, it has a name. What's the name of the function? Named function, right? Remember, how do you call a function? With this, your compiler will look for this function called named function and run it. And what is it going to output in your terminal? Console.log. It will log my name is Dami. Now let's add an argument to the function. You add your argument in the bracket you have here. Yeah, in between these two brackets, this is where you add your arguments. You can add as many arguments as you want to a function. So back to our argument slide. Let's say I want to call it another name, constant Cindy fn is equal to, now you can have argument 1, argument 2, then your arrow function, open your curly brace again and close it, right? Now because you now have arguments, there are variables that you can play with. It can change depending on who is calling Cindy function. Does that make sense? So someone can call Cindy function and say argument 1 is Buhari, argument 2 is Peter Obi, and your function will log something based on those arguments. Someone else will come again and says argument 1 is Tinubu and argument 2 is Atiku. Your function will still log something based on that. So because you now have arguments, you can make whatever you're outputting within your function implementation dynamic based on user input. Does that make sense? Let me explain further. So implementation, this is a comment. You know, in JavaScript you use these two what do you call it now, forward slashes to comment. So I'm just writing that I'll be having my implementation in this function. I could say console.log. This time around, I use a ternary. I will use this kind of string literal operator to say our next president. I'll still write it in code for you. Is dollar, because I want to write the JavaScript variable argument 1 and dollar argument 2. Then I close my brackets. Now, if anybody needs to call this Cindy function, you can come here and say, please run Cindy function, right? Run Cindy function with argument 1 is a string Tinubu, comma Buhari. Then you close it. And that person can come and say run that same Cindy function with OB and then Atiku. So what we have here now, let's quickly run it in a JavaScript terminal to see what I mean. But does this make sense to you? Okay. So let me come here and run. Let's just look for an online JavaScript terminal we can use. Okay, this is beautiful for me. Yeah, so let's create a function quickly. Who can help me with the keywords to use? Constant. What's the name of the function again? I need it to be fast. In the function is equal to, you open your bracket, argument 1 comma argument 2, right? And then you say it's equal to this. 1 minute, just need to be sure of something. Okay, is equal to this, and then your implementation here, you say console.log, right? Your string literal. Can you see the 2 ticks I use for the string literal? Instead of the normal quotes, double quote or single quote for strings, for string literal you use those tick so that you can write both normal string values and JavaScript variables in one line. Normally before now in JavaScript, when you want to write string and variables, you use string in quotes, then plus the variable plus string. It looks too complicated, but you see what I'm about to do now. The main presidential frontliners, frontline candidates in Nigeria are. Now I want to use argument 1. I'll use a $sign, open a curly bracket, close it, and put argument 1 there. The compiler knows by default that I'm using a variable that has been declared somewhere, and you know it has been declared in between our brackets here, right? So argument 1, I continue my normal text again. Can you see that one is in black? Because the compiler already knows that it's expecting a variable there, right? And $arg2. Now let's call this Cindy function with different arguments. Oh my word. Okay, beautiful. So who can give me some names? Now, because you are the one supplying this value, you are not getting it from somewhere else. That means you need to put it in string if it is text, but if it's number, you don't need to put it in a string. Is that clear? So we have Tinubu, and Obi. Yes, you can use single. Okay, so for the next one, let me use single quotes. We'll call this Cindy function again. but with a different argument this time. We say article and so. Now, if you run this, look at what happens. Your function returns different outputs to the terminal based on the argument that was provided to it. So for the first one, it has, can you read it for me? The main presidential frontline candidates in Nigeria are Tinubu and Obi, based on this, right? The second one, outputted, the main presidential frontline candidates in Nigeria are Atiku and Kwankwaso, right? Now, this is exactly the same way React props operate. Simply, I've told you over and over again that React components are JavaScript functions that are returning JSX that will be transpiled to HTML. And as long as you see it as functions, it will help you relate with React as pure JavaScript. Before we go to back to our React code, now there's another thing I want to show you. Console.log. There's what we call, there's a type of method in JavaScript, type of argument 1. Please permit me to put my notifications off so that we can work faster. Okay, do not disturb. So when you log the type of an argument, it will give you the type of that variable. For example, if it's an object, if it's a string, if it's a number. And if we run again, we are going to have string, the main presidential blah blah blah, string, the main presidential frontline candidate. If I change this to, instead of Tinubu, and I do 2, or I do 419, and I run again, it will say number. Can you see? So you can actually find out the type of an argument, whether it's an object, so if I do this again, let me take off argument 1 because of what I want to do, and I say, let me comment this out, and I come here and I just create an object, and I say name is equal to Damilare, and then I come back again, I say $arguments1.name, and I close it. Yeah. By the time I run this, it will tell me that the type is an object, because this is an object. Remember how you declare an object in JavaScript? You open a curly brace, you put your key, your value. Your key here is name, the value is Damilare, and then you close your curly brace. That's how to declare an object in JavaScript. Does that make sense? So there are different types in JavaScript. We have string, we have number, we have object, we have array. Those are the common ones. Now, that is that about arguments in JavaScript. So looking back at our React code, the code we have written before now, in our, we have our index.js. From our index.js, we had what else? Our home. Then we had header. We had something else. About, right? Where's our about component? Let's just confirm that we have that. Yeah, we have about somewhere. Okay, beautiful. Then we also have a company component. Now, when you look at this component in relation to what we had in our browser here, you see constant this taking in an argument called props, and then it's returning something. Always remember, a JavaScript function is like a factory or a company that can take in raw materials and can return finished products. So it is within this return statement that you have the JSX that React returns, that will be transpiled by Babel, the compiler for React, into normal HTML that you know about, HTML and CSS. Does that make sense? So props are simply arguments that, what's it called? That a React component takes in. And take note of what I'm writing here now. React props are objects. Can you see that? Do I need to zoom in? React props are what? Objects. We talked about variable types the other time, yeah, where we said it should log type of argument for us, and it told us it's an object based on whatever we logged. Is that clear? Okay, so always know that React props are objects. So even when you receive props like this, you need to find the keys inside it to be able to use it. So let me make it clear. Let me declare an object and name it props. Constant props is equal to, how do I declare an object? An opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. So now let's put a few things inside our props. Let's say company name, right? Just like we have here, company name, Zgela ICT. Sorry, that should be a colon, right? Yeah, thank you. I saw that. And to separate different name, key and value pairs in an object, you use a comma. So the next one is staff number. In our office here, we are like, let's say a 50 staff, and then another comma, right? And then we say the leader. Permit me to put my name. Damilare Ademesa. Now, this is your props, right? Sorry, 1 minute. Let me just change it. Let me still use props so that it's easy to move around. So we have it here. Now, we need to move this now to, I'm looking for the best way to do this, because it's meant to be passed from the parent. Let's remove it for now, yeah. So let's have it like this. This is fine, right? Okay, so let's run our app. You remember how to run your app, your React app. The script to use is in your script session in your package.json, right? And we are using npm run start or yarn run start. Is going to start up your React app. But whatever name you call this script is what it's going to be. So you could say me, and then you're going to be doing npm run me. Does that make sense? So npm run me, it will spin up a browser. Yes. So we have our app, right? And when we check, I know we have imported the company components in another component. That should be in our about. Yes, we imported company here. So for now, let's hide the props that we put, and let's just put the normal company component without any props attached to it. You know how to import component already in another component. After exporting it with a name, you go to the other component, import it with that name from the file, and render it within your return. Whatever you are rendering must be in a return statement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? Okay. So now let's see our about page and see the details we have. We are talking about Zgela ICT here. This company has 50 staff members and is run by Damilare Ademesa. Based on the props we have here. Let me move the props inside the component so that it makes sense to you. But now let's assume we want to make our React component dynamic like this function, where one component can call it here. Just hold on. Now let me make it better, right? Let me say first contestant. Please just stay with me as I make it better. And then our object, key pair value, separate it with a comma, and I say second contestant is OB, right? I copy it all and I paste it here, and I say this time around I want it to be OB and article. Now if we run it again, we already agreed that it's an object, so let me just take up this log as it's not useful for us anymore. Now we are passing, just there will still be a few things that will change, because now we need to find the key within each object, right? So we are going to have arguments dot first contestant. Is that true? And arguments dot what? Second contestant. The main presidential frontline candidates in Nigeria are Damilare and Obi. The main presidential frontline candidates in Nigeria are Obi and Atiku. We have just one function. We have two different function calls with two different key value pairs as one argument. So this entire object is just one argument that is being passed into this function. That's why we have only arguments here. Is it clear? Then we went inside the function. This looks like our return now. Inside the function method to implement, we implemented the object and then looked for a particular key. Object.key. Object.key. Make sense? Now, let's compare this, our JavaScript function, to our React component. This company now, you see that this, if we need to change these props, we need to be coming inside this company component to change it before we can see the desired result. But we don't want that. We want someone to be able to call this company function the same way they called this Cindy function down here, and they just passed different props to it. So this is a way we can do it, right? One way we can do this thing is to move these props to the person calling this company. And just like our Cindy function, I have just one argument here that we call props, right? Okay. Is that true? Go back to your Cindy function, just one argument, but the argument is an object. Come back here, I have just one props. Go inside the about.jsx where you're calling this company, create your props here, right? And then you can pass it here. As an object. An object, just the same way. That's a way to copy an object in JavaScript. So I'm saying this object, everything inside it, please put it here. Okay. You get just the same way. Just look at this Cindy function, and then there is an object, right? So what we're saying is I'm calling this company component, and then I'm putting all the content of these props variable that I declared there, everything like this here. Cindy, does that make sense? This function is all about you. Okay, so okay, before we ask, let's see what's going to be. We still have the same thing. So now it's easier for us, instead of coming inside the company component every time to change company name, staff number, and leader, we can come inside about, right? And then let's use this company component in two places. I'm sure we have it maybe in home. No, we don't have it in home. We have it in contact, right? Beautiful. So the same thing we did in about here. Let's move these props into our contact. Have it here. then call our company component here, and then destructure the props. You are saying more like copy and paste in Microsoft Word, right? 1, 2, 3 props, everything here you have passed it into the company, just the same way you called this JavaScript function here.
So which means on this
okay,
yeah, so on this is the contact page.
Yeah.
So yeah, that props company name is change.
You can change it. So let's change the value here now and see what happens. We have Zigela ICT here. We have multiple companies in Zigela. So let's use the name of the one that handles our academy, Rise Academy. Rise Academy. Staff, we are not too big here. So let's say 30. The leader is still me, but let's use AY so that it will be happy wherever he is. Ayotunde Olowosusi. Right? Now, let's go to our about page. Let's just change this, make it interesting. We also have another company called Numa Outsourcing, where we outsource developers to corporate organizations. Here we're a bit big, like 100. And the leader here is, let's use Daniel Arikawe. These are my very good guys. So now, our app has reloaded. When you check this and you go to your about page, you see we are talking about Nima Outsourcing here. This company has 100 staff members and is run by Daniel Arikawe. We are using just one component, but we are passing different props to it. So based on the props it's receiving, just like this function here, receiving different objects, values as argument, it is returning. So basically, garbage in, garbage out. That's what the company is doing with props. What you give to me, I give back whichever way you want it manipulated. You want me to put it in a string like this, I'll put it in a string. But you can always find the values you send to me in me. What you don't give to me, I can't give to you. So when you check your contact page, the same company component is what you still used, but this time around, we are talking about Rise Academy here. The company has 30 staff members and is run by Ayotunde Olowosusi. Does that make sense? It's beginning to make sense, right? You have a question?
Yes, I'm assuming so let's say, for instance, you have like a table with this value.
Yes. When you get there, so you have a table component, you pass the headers, you pass the data. So you use one single table component, different headers, different data. So in the component, you are looping through the data to get each line. So you can have an array of multiple data, multiple objects that you'll be looping through. Does that make sense? Now, this is one way of passing props. I want to show you the other way to pass props. Right? So instead of calling it props here, you could have called it company data. And then you come here, you destructure company data. Right? Okay, so this is one way of passing props, by destructuring an object, or by spreading an object and passing it into the component, or you pass them one by one. You already know what this component is asking for. It's asking for company name, staff number, and leader. Right? You can see it in what is returning, right? Cindy, is that true? It's needing from your props. It knows that your props is an object, but it said in your props object, please supply me company name, supply me staff number, supply me leader, right? So you can come here and then just say company name. Instead of passing it as a string, now that you have it here, right? You come here and say it is. Remember, when you want to write a JavaScript variable in a React component, you use curly braces. So you can come here and say company data dot what? Company name. For the staff number, we don't want to add code it. Add code means you are putting in the value yourself and it cannot be changed except you come to manually change it again, right? So staff number, you do the same. You say company data dot what? It can be any number. Instead of saying staff number, you can call it number. But when you come here, you still say company data dot number. You get? So it will be assigning whatever you have here to the props that you have named staff number. So it's this one that must not change, because that is what it is expecting here. But what you are assigning to it can change, can be any key. In fact, can be .dog, company data .dog. You get? You assign it to the staff number, right? Okay, then leader, you don't hard code it. Now look at what happens in our about page. If I hard code this leader and I don't assign it to this object I have here, right? Look at what will happen. It will pick company name, it will pick staff number, but it will not pick the leader. It will use this hard coded value as the leader. Can we check? This is our about page, right? About. We are talking about name outsourcing here. The company has 100 staff members and it's run by Daimler Ademeso. But it's Daniel we wanted to put, right? But because we did not assign it here, it has no power or ability to decide what we wanted. So it's not a mind reader. It's what you assign that it will pick. Okay, so you come here and you say company data dot what? The leader. So this is simply how to create props in React. Props are function arguments, nothing more, but their type is object. React props are objects. They are not string, they are not numbers, they are objects. So they can now be an object with a key that is a string, that the value is a string, or a key that the value is a number, or a key that the value is an array, or a key that the value is another object. So you can now have object 1 dot the key dot object 1 dot object 2 dot object 2's key. So let me now use different prop values so that you will understand better, right? Right? So we already have the type for company name as string, right? We have the type for staff number as number. Yeah? No. Instead of leader, let's have leaders. Let's take it out from our contact page here so that it does not break our code. Let's go back to our about. So instead of leader, now we want to have leaders. And these leaders, we want to check how the object type will be in our prop. So these leaders this time will now be an object, right? We now have leader 1. Instead of arguing between myself and AY who should be the leader or who should not be the leader, let's just put everybody's name. We are one big family in our company, right? So we say leader 1, Damilare. We say leader 2. You know this is an object now, object type, right? We say leader 2, say Ayo Tunde. Hope it's not confusing. We said, okay. You just said?
The presidential whatever is between OP and CP.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, one is running. It's not able to pick like one. When the one
Yes.
states that you can pick just one.
Yes, it can pick just one. So for example, I can just ignore the second one and just say the main presidential frontline candidate in Nigeria is argument as first contestant. It will ignore the second one. But it's more like I've given you all the options possible. The function decides what it wants to use. But for you to send the options possible to the argument, to the component, it has to come as an object. It cannot, the object cannot be a string. The keys in the object cannot be their values cannot be a string, a number, or whatever. Does that make sense? Okay, so now leaders is now an object. let's go back inside our company component, and where we have the leaders, let's now have props.leaders, right? Dot leader 1. Sorry, leader 1, right? And you know, props itself is an object. And how do you get the key in an object? You use the dot notation, right? Dots. So you have props dot leaders again. Take note, leaders, right? Dot leader 2. Makes sense, right? So if you check, let's go back to about. If you check your about page now, there's an error. Let's check out our error. I think it's corrected now. Leaders, leader 1, leaders, leader 2. Oh, sorry. Now, you see what I was talking about. Now, look at this. There's an error already. Company is expecting leaders, but we have leader. So the first thing we should do now is leaders will be company data dot. It's saying there is no leader in this object. And truly, is there a leader or key in this object? No, it's leaders. So it is very conscious of your spelling. Okay. So we are talking about Nima outsourcing here. The company has 100 staff members and it's run by Damilare and Ayotunde. So we already have a key value pair that is a string, key value pair that is a number, key whose value is an object. Let me just talk briefly about arrays, because you can also have an array as part of your props, right? So let me say courses, the courses that we offer. To declare an array, you use brackets, square brackets, right? So an array is like a store of similar elements. So you could have courses. Do you know why we have this error? You're saying it's expecting a comma because in an object, each key value pair is separated by what? A comma. Thank you. So courses, we do front end, right? We do back end, do UI, UX, we do QA testing, we do product management, etc. So in our company components, we can now add another line here that says because I've not taught you about JavaScript map, I don't know if I should do that so that I don't confuse you. For now, let me just pick the first course, right? And then I'll say the first course that we offer is, again, a bracket, then we'll say props, right? Leave the English, whatever I call it is what it is. Props dot courses, right? Now, to get the value in an array, you use square brackets, the same way you initialized it, and then you put the index. So let me go back. Front end has index 0. An array index starts from 0. Back end has index 1, 2, 3, 4. Even though it has 5 elements. Hmm? Huh?
This one is slow.
It's slow.
Is
Slow. It's not getting late here.
oh, okay. Oh, okay. So we have props, the courses. So our first index in that array will be 0. and that means that will certainly output front end for us. So you could also have a key that has an array value. These are props that you can pass to a React component. So you come here. Now, take note of something. Something will happen. You will not have this front end show yet. And I wish someone would tell me why. I owe that person a gift. It's already throwing an error. Can we look at it together? Okay, I should zoom in, all right. Says, cannot read properties of what? Undefined, reading 0. Where is React throwing this error? Which component? Which component? I'm pointing at it. Which component? That's the company component. So that means there is a place in the company component where you're asking it to read an index of what it does not have. Thank you. So because we have not declared courses here as part of the props, I will still make a mistake and I want you to help me with it. Company data. What am I to write here? Dot what? Dot what? Courses. Thank you. Now it will still throw us an error, and I need you to help me locate the error. What's the problem? It's still throwing an error. So what's the issue? It's still saying I'm not seeing my courses prop. What did it say? I spelled the course wrongly. So take note of this. It could always throw you that undefined error if it's not correctly spelled. Okay, we are talking about Numa outsourcing here. The company has 100 staff members and is run by Damilare and Ayotunde. The first course that we offer is front end. So we could change that. The second course that we offer is array index 1 or array index 2, third course, array index 4, fourth course, array fifth course, array index 4. Makes sense, right? Okay, so these are all the types.
So if you want to say, let's say for instance, you want to say the courses we offer are front end.
Thank you. So there is a way to loop through that array and just be outputting them based on the index. But because we've not done something like that, I would not want to bore you with it. Or if you have the capacity for it, is a JavaScript method called map. And all you do is props.courses courses, then it's an array dot map. It takes in a function as an argument. It takes in each of the array one by one. We can call it course. It also takes in an index as an argument, 2 arguments, the array and its index. Then you could come back here and say you should return this function should return this JSX. And you say our courses are
just to confirm, you'd like to call Shade Glow mobile. No problem. I won't. Who would you like to call?
our courses are, then it will list each of them one by one. Course index. Don't be scared, right? Just hold on. Course index. What I've just tried to do is I am saying our courses are. Now look for props.courses. Map is a JavaScript function. Map can take in another function as an argument, and if it will take in that other function as an argument, it will go to your courses array and look for each element, front end, back end, everything. It will attach an index to each of them. So for front end, it will give it index 0, and we are saying that function should now return, just like our first function here, return this. We are saying the function inside this map should also return something. It should return a paragraph, right? And now that he has given us the course, then we can just, we don't even need the index, since it has given us the course. It's giving us each course. You get?
So it's going to list all the courses.
Let's see. Let me go back to it.
There's this argument, remember if statement again?
Yes, so you can now use your if here. You can say if it's an odd number, return it. If not, don't return it. You get? Based on, you know the index now, you can decide what the index is. So you can decide how to get in. Should we just do that? Okay. Let's quickly check it online. Odd numbers. So an odd number, if you can divide it by 2, if you can divide it by 2 without a remainder, it is even. If you can divide it by 2 without remainder is odd. So this is what you use, the remainder operator. Can you see? So let's go back here. You can now say if, before you return, you get, if this will not be number, it will be course, right? No, not the course, it's the index we are using now, right? If index hope I'm getting this.
How many courses?
If the remainder, no, index divided by 2, if the remainder is not equal to what? Is not equal to 0. Okay, yeah. So let's go. Backend and QA. So if the remainder is equal to 0,
Can't it be S and if S and S equal?
no, that the x is this index. X is just a placeholder in JavaScript.
If this is this S.
Or if you want that one to else, whatever you want is possible in programming. Return something.
Yeah,
Sorry, we do not offer this course. You can use your, if this is pure JavaScript, nothing more. Whatever you can do in JavaScript, you can do in your components. Front end, we do not offer this course yet. UI UX, we do not offer this course yet. Project management. So if your props is an array, you can use all your array methods on it. So in JavaScript, you have several different array methods. You have math methods that do a whole lot of arithmetic for you. You have date methods, and then you have your map function that loops through an array and picks out each, look at this place, it loops through an array and picks out each element one by one and then does something on it. So what this map is simply doing is it goes inside courses, pick each course one by one and does this operation on each of them. Based on this condition, it determines what to return in each of them. Does that make sense? So we've successfully discussed about props in React and about how to pass props data from parents to children. There's one last thing I would quickly like to show you before we end this class. We've talked about destructuring a props in a React component. I think we've done that, right? There's another way. Yes, let me go back to that. Now, see the way we are getting our data, props data in the components. We could have done it in a better way. It's called destructuring. Destructure. more like destroying, but destructuring. Borrow me this English, it's hard for me. Now, since you already know you are receiving your props, why do we need to do props.company, props.staff number, props.this? Why can't we just have constant? We know it's an object, right? We have agreed that our props is an object. Constant this is equal to props. Then we know what we're expecting in our props, right? We're expecting company name. We're expecting staff number. We're expecting leaders, right? Leaders. What else are we expecting? Courses. Then you can come here and then you have assigned all of them. You have destructured them here. Just come here. Instead of having props in multiple places, just have it here once and define every other variable inside that object. Huh? It's going to print out exactly the same thing. See? Right? The last thing I want to talk about is functions as props key value. Right? So when you look at, go back to our about page, we already have string, number, objects, array. One more thing we can have is a function. Right? So we come back here and then we have I'm looking for a name to call the key. Just say apply. Now I have a function in the parent that I want to call from the child. So what I'm passing to the child is a function as a prop that I can call anytime I need it. You know, it's this yes, props is like what we call a two-way data. Hold on. Props is like this. Two-way data, component A, component B, right? Component A can pass message to component B like this, and component B can pass message to component A. If component A is the parent and component B is the child, component A can pass props data normally. If there is a function as one of these props, if there is a function, component B can ride on the availability of this function and send something back to the parent using this function. So I want to show you how. Can we proceed? Okay. We've seen how parent has been passing to child. Apply to enroll. Apply to enroll. And then now look at it. We now make it a function. We have already declared it with a name here already. Apply to enroll, right? We now call it a function. And then we say inside this function, just alert us. Let us know that someone wants to enroll. Alert someone wants to enroll. Right? Now we need to add it as one of the things we're expecting from this child component. So yeah, let's just say what we want to add here is just call it what can we call it? Application form. I'm trying to use a different name from apply to enroll so that you understand. It will now still be what? Apply to enroll. Now we have passed this function. You can even decide not to put this function as part of this prop. Can we do that so that it will become clearer? It could be a function inside this component about page that is doing something else. So let's even have it here. Let's call it constant apply to enroll, like a normal function. Right? It can be part of this prop, it can also be separate. Okay, apply to enroll. Yeah, thank you. So we can go ahead now and say our application form prop is this applied to enroll. Now let's go inside our company components. Let's have a button here to apply. Right? Apply to one of our courses. Now, when you come here, you would see a button apply to one of our courses, but when you click it, nothing is happening. Right? Now, add an event handler. We call it an on-click event. There are different events in JavaScript because you are using different things to interact with your browser. You are using your mouse, you are using your keyboard, right? Some are even touch screen. All of them, they send an event to the browser. Does that make sense? One of the events that is sent is what we call onClick. In this onClick, you can ask the onClick to now call the function that this guy is expecting. What's the function is expecting? Application. What's it again? Let's check. We defined it here. Application form, right? But don't forget the application form is referencing another name. So don't let the names confuse you. The only name that company component knows is application form. The only name that about knows is apply to enroll. It is this thing that links them together. Does that make sense? So company is looking for application form, not apply to enroll. Right? So in your company, makes sense, right?
Sort of.
Now,
Hmm? That's what we did here now. Look at it as part of the props. So we have told company component that another prop we are expecting is application form. So about component
Company that you're expecting application form
from anybody calling it. It might be about, it might be contact, it might be any component.
from.
You get? But the name you used here, because in reality, you could have used another name. Before you remember there's a component that can help me, you now imported it. You won't ask whoever created the company component to go and change it to your name, to the name of your function. Right? As long as you are able to link them together like this, you are fine. So you have now told this company component, anytime they click on me, please call application form. Application form will go to the parent and say, please call apply to enroll for me. Now, let's go again. Alert, someone wants to enroll. Take note, this alert is not in the child, it's in the parent. It's the parent that is alerting. But the click was done where? In the child. Does this make full sense? Now, this way you'll be able to pass data between child and parent. You could have decided to put another value inside that component. Let's make it a bit more tricky. Here, let's have name as an argument. Remember, functions can take in arguments, right? Right? So let's have name as the argument. And then you come here, you say name wants to apply. Sorry. This should be making some sense by now. Huh? Name, instead of someone, name wants to enroll. Then you close it instead of your normal double quote with your tick, back tick. So that means I have given the name apply to enroll to application form. I now need to come here and then call application form. Because I'm calling it this time around, I need to call it like a normal function with an arrow function and say, now what name should we put? Cindy. To input name. Beautiful. You want that? Oh, beautiful. We've not gotten to states, but if you want to, we can. So we can have this, and then application form, say Cindy and Ovakpo wants to apply. But he's expecting a name, so let's not complicate matters. Let's just have one name for now, right? So what we're saying is, when they click on apply to one of our courses, it will show Cindy wants to enroll. That means you can pass a whole lot of, you can pass an object with a lot of data inside this argument and send it to the parents. More like you want to send gifts to your parents and you just want to use one bus. then you overload it. You use an object
So
and pass.
basically, a form.
You can send all the data. So you can have multiple stages form. For example,
I thought when we do a group, we want to take it to another place. Why is it popping like an alarm?
because we said alert in our function, we did not say you should. Yeah, look here. Can you see? Make sense? So it's whatever you ask it to do in the function that it will do. You could decide that you should open another URL. Instead of alert, you could say open another URL. Window.open. Window. Oh my goodness. Window.open www.zjala.com. So instead of alerting, you click this, it opens www.zjala.com, but it's opening rubbish because we did not have the protocol. Let's quickly do that. And let's roll again. It opens zjala.com for you. Oh no, let it open our new website, Rise Academy. Rise Academy .ng. So we go again, riseacademy.ng. While that is loading, so yeah, I was trying to say you could pass data from parent to child. You could also use this function if it's a prop to pass data from child back to a parent. So imagine you have a multi-stage form. In a form, you have stage 1, proceed to stage 2. You know that kind of form? Proceed to stage 3. This is the last stage. This is a big form. All of them can be children in one parent. The parent will have an object in a state, and then it will collect data from here. So every time you finish stage 1, you will let parents know. Parents will hide component 1 and show component 2. When component 2 passes data, parents will validate the data, confirm that it's fine, then hide component 1 and 2 and show component 3. This also sends. Parents validate that data sent from component 3 is fine. Then parents will call an API and submit the form. We are going to be doing this after the entire class. Submit the form. You get that? Please remind me about this particular assignment. Just drop it on our Slack group. And then if this is submitted, it will hide all the 3 components and show another component, a child component. Let me increase this. And then show component 4. Component 4 will show you a success page. Does it make some sense? So we've been able to cover props in React. In our next class, we'll focus on states, parent state, child state, and how to pass data to each state variable in React. Thank you for your patience and your attentiveness.